Hello, Miss Terry. I'm so sorry it's been forever getting these answers to you from this video, but it's been very crazy and it's hard to it's hard to get really good internet to be able to upload these. So yeah, I'm going to try to answer the questions as fast and as thorough as possible. Okay, I wrote them all down, so here we go. How much time did you spend in language school? So basically how Peace Corps service is laid out is the first 11 weeks, so I get to country and we have like one day, and then the next day we go to different provinces within Zambia. There are 9 provinces, and we go to different provinces and basically shadow a volunteer for a couple of days. And a lot of volunteers think that this is kind of the weed out process for like who will be able to stay and who won't, because most people, you can envision what a village is going to be like. You can see pictures, but you don't really know what it is like until you get here and until you see it. And even then, each village and each community is so different. But anyway, so they do that within the first couple days, and you're like, oh, like this is a village, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So after that, we get back and we do a couple days of like medical and administrative stuff, and then we go straight to 11 weeks of training. And in this training, this might answer a couple of your questions, but in this training, we do cultural training, we do technical training. So cultural's just cultural traditions, different like gender roles, different customs that they have, like how to eat, like just everything about the culture. And then technical would be in regards to our work. So like I did technical training for health work. There's also 3 other programs in Zambia. There's what we call the Rural Agricultural Project, and that's basically fish farming. And then we have Life, which is something in food. Basically, it's food security. So they do a lot of like gardening and permaculture and things like that. And then we have the health project, which I'm in, and then we have education volunteers, rural education. Um, yeah. So we each receive technical training depending on that. And I'm going to step back for a second. So when we first came to country in June, it was health volunteers and education volunteers. So we were together for the first couple days, but then we split up and we were at different training sites. So while they were learning education stuff, we were learning health stuff. So yeah, so that was technical training. And then we have like safety security training. We have training on how to maintain our bikes, how to, do everything from changing the gears to adjusting the brakes to changing flat tires, because when we're out in the villages, our bikes are our only transportation. And like me, I'm really far out there, and so no one can just come and help you fix your bike if something's wrong. So that's also really important. And then we also have a component of language training. And for several weeks, we did language training every morning for about 4 hours in the morning. And then we would go on to technical, whatever we were going to do that afternoon. And the way that it's set up is that there are 72 different tribal languages spoken in Zambia. But there are, I think, 7 that Peace Corps teaches, 7 or 8 languages that Peace Corps teaches. And so they just randomly assign you at the beginning. And so I was assigned with the language Bemba, which is the most widely spoken in Zambia, which meant that whenever I got placed in my different province at my site, in my villages, I could have been placed in 3 different provinces, because there's actually a fourth or a fifth. There are 4 different provinces, but there's a 5th that speaks Bemba as well, but it's too urban for volunteers. And so yeah, basically I had to wait like all of training until the very end to find out what province I was going to. Whereas a lot of other volunteers who spoke different languages already knew the province because it's only that province that speaks it. So yeah, and then since Bemba was the largest group, there was one class that had 3 students with their language trainer. There was my class, which had 5, and then there was another class that had 4 or 5 in it. I think 5. Yeah, and why the one class had 3 is because they did have 4, but one guy went home, so yeah, it's always in flux. There's always a change, whether someone goes home or Peace Corps changes something. That's why one of the Peace Corps requirements or whatever they say at the beginning is adaptability and flexibility. So it's really important. But yeah, so the first 11 weeks were I was trained in my language, but several weeks we didn't do it because we had other things going on. So I think I counted in those 11 weeks, I want to say there were 25 days that we focused on language for a good like 4 hours, which is kind of incredible. And we did like two tests that kind of checked our progress. And then we had one final test at the end that we had to pass. We had to be at least an intermediate mid. Yeah, we had to be at least an intermediate mid speaker to be able to be placed in our villages. And then if you're not, then they give you an extra week to learn more and then try to get up to the level. And then if they just feel like you're not going to be successful in the language, then you go home. But no one in my intake even had to stay behind. We all passed, so that was great. Next question. Sorry, I'm like rushing through. I don't want this to be forever long, but do all PCVs have to learn the language where they serve? Yes. I would like all PCV or Peace Corps countries. I would say yes, but it's easier for some because some of them are obviously like English, and even in Zambia, English is the first language. But because not everyone speaks English, and that's kind of left over from like the colonial time. Zambia was never under colonialism, but they were a territory, so it's kind of left over from that. So not everyone speaks English, even though they're kind of trying to get more towards that. But yeah, not everyone speaks it. So we have to learn the tribal languages. And then in other countries where they speak French, where they speak German, things like that, they still have to learn the language. So not just Zambia, but I would venture to say in other countries it's probably easier to get away with not knowing the language as well, just because Zambia is surprisingly. When you think of Peace Corps, you think of rural, you think of mud huts, you think of Zambia. But surprisingly, Zambia is one of probably like maybe 5 countries that's super rural. A lot of the other programs have shifted more towards like cities and towns for volunteers to work in. And so a lot of volunteers, some of them live in apartments with internet and washing machines and all that stuff. So Peace Corps service in different countries is very different. So is my specialty healthcare? I would not say healthcare. I would say it's health education. So because I went to school for psychology and international studies, so I was in no way trained to do anything that is specific to healthcare. And Peace Corps trains us on health education and different things that we can do with that in our communities. And we even sign something, or like we're not allowed basically to administer any kind of healthcare. But that doesn't stop a lot of volunteers from from participating in certain things like doing RDD testing, which is like pricking the finger, or watching a birth and somehow helping with the birth. So because you're at the clinic, you're surrounded by it, there are going to be times when it's like, oh, I gotta help, or like I gotta do this. So you can't always get away from it, and then some volunteers don't even try. Some volunteers really enjoy that, and then some volunteers, like we have a registered nurse who's under the health education program, so obviously she's trained, but under Peace Corps she's not allowed to do any kind of health care, just health education. What training to qualify? So basically, anyone can do health education. So we have several master's students because there's a program that you can do with Peace Corps, and you can get your master's at the same time and do like a project here in Zambia. Under that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was thinking about this coffee that I get to drink. I'm in a real house right now, so it's still kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so we have a lot of master's students, and their specialty is like public health. So this is what they're going to be doing. They're being trained in it. They've had education towards that. So we have actually a lot of people who have been somewhat trained or are somewhat knowledgeable before coming here about health and how it works in a community and things like that. But me, I did not have training before Peace Corps, and I feel like the training in Peace Corps equipped me definitely enough to be able to work in my village. So. Did I paint my house? Yes, I did. So I will say this. I am like one of, if not the luckiest volunteer in Zambia. The village that I'm in, the people are wonderful. They're so receptive to me. They enjoy me being there. The family that I live with is a model family for any country. Like, they are just incredible people. And yeah, they're just wonderful human beings. And the house that they built for me is exactly how Peace Corps told them to build it, like to a T. And anytime I need help with something or ask for something, they do it. And so the walls are like burned bricks, like burned mud bricks, and then there's mud on the outside and on the inside to cover the bricks. And then usually Peace Corps requires that they put lime on the walls to kind of deter termites and other bugs. Even though it does termites a bit, but, and then I'd heard from a lot of volunteers and experienced myself at other volunteers' places that the lime, it's powder, so it gets on you, it gets on everything you own, like it's just a pain. And so I asked my host dad, my Zambian dad, I was like, before I got to my site, I met him, and I was like, do the walls have, like the whitewash paint, because they also can do like a really thin white paint on there to kind of cover it up. That's what a lot of volunteers do. And he was like, oh no. But then when I got to my site, even when I went just to visit for a couple days before actually being placed there, he had already done it. So because of that, I was able to just go in immediately and paint my walls. So we have what's called posting, where the volunteers are posted at the different sites, and we do shopping before that. And Peace Corps helps us with, like, they provide our transport too, like they take us to our sites. So I loaded up, I bought a carpet, I bought like a big thing of yellow paint, a big thing of teal paint. So yeah, I painted my house, and I actually did it. I finished it the second day I was there, and I bought brushes, which is really funny. I bought a roller brush, and that's not possible. I started roller brushing on the walls, and the walls were falling off. And so what I did is I use the best tools I have, which are my hands. And so I scooped paint up and painted all the walls. My hands were so raw because the walls are really rough. They're not smooth at all. And so, yeah, for 2 days, that's what I did. And I'm pretty sure the village was like, she's crazy. But yeah, so I painted my walls. Long story short, I painted my walls. Did I have to do a lot to make my house livable? Like I said, I did not, because I'm very, 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 very fortunate, very blessed with the family that I have, the place that I'm in. But I do know a lot of volunteers that their houses are too small, so they have to have an addition built there. And when I mean too small, I mean like maybe 10 feet long by like 7 feet long, like really small. Other volunteers, their roofs are leaking, they have termites everywhere. Like, a lot of volunteers walk into a really bad situation. Some volunteers walked into a situation where they didn't have walls. Like, it was just the foundation of the house. So when I'm speaking from my experience, I'm speaking from a very, very blessed viewpoint, because my family was just on point. They had everything done. The only thing that I requested them do was make something that covers my toilet hole and give me a new lock on my door. And when I got to my site, it was done. So I didn't have to do a lot to make my house livable. And it's funny, now that I'm thinking about this question, in your head, maybe you're thinking, like, what did I do to decorate my house and stuff? I'm not sure. But in my head, I'm like, I have walls and I have a roof that doesn't leak. That's livable. But yeah, so I mean, I have a mattress and bed frame. That's all stuff that I bought at posting. And I've had, I think, 9 pieces of furniture now made from a local carpenter. And yeah, my house, and any volunteer will tell you, I have one of the homiest houses. And I think it's from being a military kid, just moving around all the time and having to make places your home fast. And it's been really fun to just kind of see how it's transformed from the very beginning and what other little projects I can do. Because, from making shelves to trying to find out different ways to do storage, because, you're living in a mud hut, it's like, where am I going to store things? So that's been really fun. And it's caused me to be really creative because I can't just go to a store and buy things. I have to either design it or make it myself, design it for someone else to make or make it myself. So it's been really interesting and really, really cool. I don't know if I have pictures on Facebook, but I should put up more pictures, maybe from when Mom and Dad get here today. Crazy. But yeah, I should probably say the date so that we know like how off I am. This is May 11th. Wow, it's May 11th. Tomorrow I will have been in Zambia for 11 months. Crazy. So yeah, my house, I think because of being a military kid, and that's just kind of my personality, is that to feel like a place is home, I have to get settled. I have to, everything has to have a place, like everything should be decorated. There are certain things like pictures of family, my little stuffed animal, like all this stuff that makes things home for me, I brought with me, and are now in my house. And so it's been really, really awesome to just kind of see it transform. And so I think the experience of military life helped me do that. And there are a lot of people who like don't do that here and wish they would have, but I think it's just such a new experience, just moving in general probably, that it's not something people really think about, but I know it's very important. And so on the roughest days, on the good days, on the bad days, I ride my bike home, and I'm just so excited to be in my house, to be in my space, because it really is my space. And yeah, it's really great. So, do I share a kitchen? No, I don't share a kitchen. So I have my hut, and then right outside my hut, I have what's called an ensaka, and it's an outdoor kitchen. You may have seen a picture of it, not sure, but it's just like I've got a little wall, and it's got some posts and then a thatch roof on it. And I can do all my cooking in there. I store my charcoal in there. I store my little braziers that my charcoal goes in to cook. I also have a dish rack, and a lot of volunteers are quite jealous because I have a double dish rack, so I can wash on one level and I can put it all on the next level to dry. And then I have my shower, my bathing shelter, and then my toilet. So yeah, I have my own kitchen, and that's one of the requirements that Peace Corps says, that you kind of have to have your own space and all that. But well, actually, I can't even cry. And next question, how was the Zam fam chosen? Do they provide protection and context for my being in the village? So the way that it works, from my understanding, most times, the normal way is that so how Peace Corps got into Zambia is that the Zambian government requests for different aid, I guess, from the government, and one of those was health. And so then the Ministry of Health in Zambia, like right underneath, says we need volunteers here, here, and here, the different districts, or different provinces and then different districts. And so then they pick the districts, or the different provinces, and then within those they pick different districts to put volunteers in, or that maybe they've requested volunteers. And then after that, the districts basically tell Peace Corps, we think these are good areas to put volunteers in. And after that happens, then Peace Corps goes to those areas, talks to like the health centers and the communities, and then after that, it's like there are certain community members who want to host a volunteer, and then if there are multiple, then the community kind of chooses them. So my host was chosen, and obviously because he's really well respected in the community and he's hardworking. So that was one of the reasons mine was chosen. But sometimes it's merely because they're a head men or they have some kind of authority, and that's not always the best situation. Yes, they provide. Yeah, they do provide. Okay, so again, speaking from my almost perfect situation, my family provides great protection and context for me being there. When I first got there, there were they invited everyone from the village and surrounding villages to come and see me and greet me, and then they kind of explain what I'm doing here. They explain not to call me white person, which is a typical thing, and they explain my work, what I'll be doing, like not to ask for money, don't come and bug me. And they also had the chief's representative and my headman there as like backup to say like, don't mess with her, you have to mess with us, blah, blah, blah. So that's been really great. I haven't had any issues, no safety issues, no security issues. So that's been really awesome to have their back. And plus, I've become closer friends with my chief, so that's been really nice. But not all volunteers are that way. I live right on my family's compound, one of the closest volunteers to the family that I've seen. Other volunteers don't have technically like a host family that they stay on their compound with. They have their own compound, and then there's a family close by who's like supposed to watch out for them. So it's different in that way too. The different ways that they kind of find sites for volunteers. I'm doing fine. Thank you. And then, let me skip this question. I'll come back to it. Okay, what will I miss most? The people. The people. I'll miss the people the most. It already makes me, I'm not even leaving, but thinking about leaving makes me really sad. But my family here has been incredible. I decided when I first came that I would be open and I would be myself with my community, with my family. And so that means a lot of like weird singing and like crazy actions and voices and stuff. And so they probably think I'm crazy, but they know my family, my Zambian family has been so good about knowing my temperaments and knowing like when maybe something's wrong and when to come and talk to me. And I don't know, we've just developed a really great relationship that I guess I didn't really expect. And so that's been great. And then just people at my clinic. We have our own clinic family, and then a lot of my friends, Zambian friends, I've become really close with them. And so I'm definitely going to miss the people, as well as Peace Corps volunteers and Peace Corps staff. I'm really going to miss them because it's such a big part of life, and that's who you have, you know. So I think I'll miss the people the most, but also the way of living, because it's just, in the village, it's quiet, it's complex, but it's simple at the same time. Like, everything's more difficult, but because it's more difficult, it's easy. And I can't really explain that, so sorry for being ambiguous, but yeah, I don't really know how to explain that. How large is area of responsibility? How do I travel to areas? So yeah, my transportation is my bike if I'm doing work stuff. And the house that I'm in, they have housekeepers and stuff, so that's interesting. I don't really know how to act with that. But anywho, yeah. So I use my bike when I'm traveling for work. And my area has about officially 26 or 27,000 people in it, the area that my clinic covers. So it's massive because most volunteers, on average, it's like 2,000, maybe 5,000. But mine is really huge. It's the largest chiefdom in Zambia. Zambia. And my clinic serves about officially 27,000 people, but they estimate it's more than 30. And then the radius that I serve is about 30 to 40 kilometers, depending on the different directions. Yeah, probably about 40 kilometers in every direction around the clinic. But thankfully, because it is so large and because they serve a large amount of people, they are given a cruiser. And so I'm able to go with them to different outreach sites. So I don't always have to ride my bike everywhere, which is nice because no one wants to ride 80 kilometers in one day. But yeah, a lot of clinics, they have motorcycles a lot of times, but a lot of times clinics don't even have motorcycles. They don't even do outreach because the government, like the money, there's not money there. They're not able to get fuel for the motorbikes, things like that. So my clinic, what I tell other volunteers, my clinic is the poster child for probably the province, but also for my district. And because of that, they get more special attention. They get more funds. There are more NGOs and things like that that come through because they are so large. They're very rural, but at the same time, they're doing large-scale things. And so it's a very unique situation and very strange for a Peace Corps volunteer in rural Zambia to have such a large catchment. And I feel like my training didn't quite prepare me for that, but my training also prepared me on like different ways to work with different people. So I kind of separate, like I work a lot with the district, which is also kind of strange for most volunteers. And so I do a lot of work with the district when I'm trying to do large scale things, because it is possible to do a lot of large scale things. But I also enjoy kind of staying, because I stay 7.5 kilometers away from the clinic. So I also enjoy kind of staying in my own village to do smaller projects. And those are the ones I almost seem more rewarding because they're like instant. I can see things happening instantly. Isolated from other Peace Corps volunteers. So previously, my closest Peace Corps volunteer was 26 kilometers away, and we visited each other a little bit because you can easily bike that, and there and back. So like a little over 50 kilometers in one day. It's not bad. And we'd even spend the night at each other's houses. But now he has gone back to America, and there's been a new group of volunteers come in. So my next closest volunteer is actually getting there on this Tuesday, tomorrow, May 12th. And she will be about 40 kilometers away. So I won't probably be visiting as much unless we can find a way to easily do that. Find someone who kind of goes between the villages, but we'll see. So, but other volunteers, I know some volunteers who are like 1 kilometer away, 5 kilometers away, like definitely within walking distance of the next volunteer. But like I said, my site is very, very rural. So, yeah, there are less chances for me to be close to volunteers or for transportation, things like that. But yeah, like I said at the very beginning, and I'll probably keep saying, each site in Zambia is so, so different. And yeah, it's hard to speak to service as a whole. So yeah, I know you probably get all this, but the caveat is that this is my opinion. So who staffs the clinic? So at most clinics, they have what's called a clinic officer, and they're not actually a doctor. They've been to school for a couple of years, and they get placed at these rural posts because there aren't enough doctors in Zambia. And then sometimes there are nurses, there are midwives, sorry, things like that. My clinic, since it is so large, I have a couple of clinic officers. I have 2 clinic officers. I have probably like 7 or 8 nurses. I have a couple of the CE staff, kind of like the maintenance, the cleaning, security. I have a lab technician because I have a lab, which is crazy. I have what's called an EHT, an environmental health technician, and they're the ones who like inspect the fields, the crops. They inspect meat. They do a lot of sanitation work, things like that. So my clinic is fortunate enough to have what seems like really large staff, but for the amount of people we serve, it's actually still understaffed. But yeah, so that's who works at the clinic. And biggest benefit to me of Peace Corps time. Oh, biggest benefit so far in Peace Corps time. To me, yeah. Okay, so to me, I think it's interesting because I am young. A lot of Peace Corps volunteers are, but I've turned 23 since I've been here. So I came here when I was 22, just turned 23 in March. And thanks to making videos like this, or like making videos of myself, writing in my journal, I've seen a lot, and I know too, like how much I've changed. Some like good ways, some bad ways, some ways that I didn't expect, and like some reasons that I've changed haven't been like why I've been changed are for like not the best reasons. But it's interesting. I read something. I can't even quote any of it for you, but it was basically about what's called weathered happiness, and it's not. It's kind of when your happiness is not the same as when you were a child. Like when you were a child, your happiness was completely innocent and completely untouched, and there was nothing to kind of taint that. And I almost feel like that was true until I came to Zambia. Like there are things in college that happen, and I was very blessed growing up, and to not have a lot of to not have like really tragedy or bad things happen in my life. And like there are things that are dramatic about life and all that stuff, but I think coming here and it's like there's life and death, and there's a lot of hard things that you see that's kind of when I have this weathered happiness now. And I don't mean that in like a dramatic way, but I don't really know how else to describe it because I have changed, but I don't think it's in a bad way. But I think it's like, I don't know, it's weird. Um, but I think yeah, I think gaining weathered happiness has been like the biggest benefit to me, since that's what you asked, it's to me, of my Peace Corps time, because there's no place I would rather learn about life and like how rough it can be than from people that I'm living it with, and that, I guess that's the only way that you can learn it. Um, yeah, and it's frustrating and it's challenging because a lot of times the things that you see here that you don't like, or you see people suffering from, or you see people dying from, are things that you're trying to teach them about or that you have taught them about. And so that adds like a different aspect to it. But I'm learning so much here. So I guess that's the biggest benefit, is just that I'm learning, and I'm going to continue learning just life things, I guess, and I'm going to grow as a person, and that I'm not scared of how I'm growing, but I'm really excited to see the person that I am in several years. And I know I'm going to be different, the same, stronger, because of all this. And that all sounds cheesy, and I might be rambling. I am rambling, but I don't really know how to describe it or expound upon it. Okay, so how and when do you have internet? I have internet on my little BlackBerry phone. As you can see, it's like super tiny, so definitely not a smartphone like a lot of people have, but it keeps me connected. I'm able to use WhatsApp to talk to family and friends, able to check my email, Facebook, the essentials. So that's been nice. But internet on my computer is basically whenever I'm in either the capital, Lusaka, like I am now, waiting to pick up my parents, or when I go to what we call our provincial houses. So each province in Zambia that has volunteers has a provincial house, which has an office, it has rooms for volunteers to sleep in, things like that. And usually they have internet, they're supposed to have internet, but sometimes the bill's not paid, the electricity's out, typical issues that you would have in a third world country. So sometimes it doesn't always work, but usually I can go there, and I'm allowed to go there for 4 nights out of the month, each month. So that's nice. I don't always take it because our house is a little bit further away from me, so it's more time consuming to get there. But I can get there if I want to or need to. And yeah, usually internet's working. May not be fast, but it works. Local religions. The primary religion is Christianity, and that's what you find a lot in the villages. There are more in like the cities or the bigger towns. There's like some Islamic, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I'd say there's like a decent sized population um, of Islam, and then I've also seen. I don't know how prevalent it is, but I have seen like a couple like maybe Hindu. It's Hinduism or Buddhism. I hate that I don't know that. I hate that I don't know which one. But I think it's Hindu. A small community here of that. But yeah, a majority of it's Christian out in the villages. There's a lot of people who are Catholic. The Catholic Church here is very large. So yeah, those are religions. And then you asked about my most challenging day in Zambia. So there are two. I've had two really challenging days. Three. I guess three, yeah. I'll narrow it down to two. One of them was November 7th, and it was the first time that I saw someone die ever in my life, and it was the first time that I saw someone die here in Zambia, because unfortunately now it's happened a couple times that I've witnessed it. But yeah, that was my most challenging day, November 7th, 2014. I was at the clinic, and I explained this on the 2 hour long video. I don't know if you watched it, or saw my breakdown because I filmed it. But an interesting fact: I filmed that scene right when I got home, before talking to anyone about it. So that's like, yeah, right after it happened, basically. So I was at the clinic, and I was helping in the dispensary area with one of my friends, and they're like, "Oh, there's a boy who's choking next door," and I was just thinking there's something lodged in his throat. And basically, we just had this communication. I was like, "Did you try saline solution? Did you try the Heimlich? Did you try like whatever?" And she's like, "No, no, no. Like basically, like you're not understanding," because there was like lost in translation from Bemba to English. We couldn't figure it out. And so we walk in there, and there's this little boy, and ultimately he had swallowed like some sort of pesticide, insecticide, and he was poisoned, and so he was convulsing. And I guess him convulsing, like she thought he was choking, and he was choking on his own vomit and sputum, and yeah. I guess I don't really. If you don't mind, I don't really want to go into details about that right now. But it is on that video. I know it's a 2 hour long video, but it is on there somewhere. The whole story. But yeah, that was the most challenging day because I'd never seen death before in that way. Like I've seen someone who's dead, but I haven't seen death. I haven't seen life leave someone's eyes. And I guess I didn't really expect that here, which doesn't make much sense since I'm working in health, but I guess I didn't really expect that, and I wasn't prepared for it. So that was a tough day. My other tough day was the day that I was just having a really tough time with my spirituality and my religion, and I guess that can also be, I know these are probably like the good parts that you want me to expand on, and let me know if you do, and I will. But they're just like longer stories that I will ramble through. But basically, yeah, it was a day that I thought I lost my religion. Or like not even religion, but I thought I'd like lost my faith, which to me are different things. Religion, faith, spirituality, they're all different to me. And so I thought I had lost my faith, which was like in my soul what I believed. And like, especially being in the village and you're alone already, like that felt so lonely. And I just remember like being in my bedroom. Like I went to my bedroom and just sat on my bed and looked at this wall of like inspirational quotes and Bible verses, and I looked at it and I was like asking myself, I was like, do I believe this anymore? And the only thing that saved me was the fact that I was questioning if I believed it. I didn't know if I did or not. And because I didn't know meant that I did not believe it, if that makes sense. So that was a really, really tough day in Zambia. But yeah, I would say 98% of the days are really fabulous, and I love my life here. But those were 2 challenging days. Yeah. So those are all the questions you asked me. I hope that's enough and that I kind of like went into everything in enough detail to help you out. I know it's also very long, so sorry. But yeah, anywho, let me know if there's anything else that I can relay to you, or if you have any more questions or whatever. So, bye!